Hi, I'm Stephanie Reid, and welcome to The Minutes. Thanks for listening today. It's great to have you along on The Minutes for the week of August 11th, 2025. This is the City of Thunder Bay podcast. The Minutes takes a look at what happened at Thunder Bay City Council this past week. You can find The Minutes wherever you get your podcasts, including our YouTube channel and our website at thunderbay.ca/The Minutes. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. On this episode, I'll have a rundown of what happened at Thunder Bay City Council this week, as well as an interview with Matthew Miedema, the Director of Engineering at the City of Thunder Bay, who will tell us more about the Transportation Master Plan and the Active Transportation Plan. But first, this week's meeting began in a closed session. Once the public session started, the first item on the agenda was presentations. Council recognized this year's Citizens of Outstanding Achievement. This is a program that officially honors individuals, groups, and organizations who've made outstanding contributions to our community. 2 recipients were celebrated this week. Acadia Broadcasting received the Community Champion Award for their dedication to the 36 Hours of Cheer campaign. And Noah Felice was recognized with the Sport Achievement Award as the first member of Team Canada's cross-country ski team to compete in the World Special Olympic Games. Congratulations, you're making Thunder Bay proud. Next, Council heard several reports from administration, starting with an update on the Transportation Master Plan and Active Transportation Plan. These plans, adopted back in 2019, are long-term guides for transportation planning and investment over the next 20 years and beyond. They're built around a vision of safer, more connected and accessible transportation system that supports all modes of travel, including driving, walking, cycling, and public transit. Since adoption, progress has been guided by 5 key cornerstone actions: the Complete Streets Policy, which was adopted by Council earlier this year, the Road Safety Action Plan, the Ultimate Road Network, which has seen 1.2 kilometers of improvements completed so far, including major intersection upgrades on the Harbour Expressway at Balmoral Street as well as at Memorial Avenue, plus the signals at Arthur and Ford Streets, and the roundabout at Edward Street and Redwood Avenue. The Ultimate Cycling Network, which is in progress with 20.2 kilometers of improvements completed and underway, including cycle track, on-road facilities, multi-use trails, and bridges. As well as the Pedestrian Priority Network, where over 47 kilometers of pedestrian improvements have been completed to date, including 22 kilometers of new infrastructure, 25 kilometers of replaced sidewalks, 23 new pedestrian crossings, over 17 kilometers of new multi-use trails, and a new pedestrian bridge. The plan also outlines additional priority actions to bring immediate benefits like improving transit, boosting road safety, and expanding active transportation options. And there's more coming, with a number of road, pedestrian, and cycling improvements planned for the year ahead. We'll learn more about it when we speak to Matthew Miedema, the Director of Engineering, in a few minutes. The next report on the agenda was on the 2026 budget direction. Administration is recommending that Council set a target municipal tax levy increase of 2.6% for city services. That figure is based on the 4-year average of the Consumer Price Index, the same approach used for the 2025 budget. The CPI is just a way of measuring inflation, or how much the cost of living goes up each year. The city faces those same rising costs for things like fuel, road repairs, and building maintenance. By tying tax increases to CPI, the idea is to try and keep pace with inflation without going over it. Admin is also recommending a multi-year capital budget covering both 2026 and 2027, with a 2.1% levy target increase in 2027, plus a provision in the T-Baytel dividend policy to boost capital investment to 5% annually. The reason? The city's annual average tax levy increase over the past decade has been 3.5%, higher than inflation. By tying increases to CPI, the city hopes to balance affordability for taxpayers with the need to invest in services and infrastructure. Council approved administration's recommendation. The proposed budget timeline going forward will see formal public engagement opportunities beginning in the coming weeks, with the capital budget released to Council in mid-November and ratified in early December, with the operating budget reviewed in late January and finalized in early February. From there, Council moved into the Community Services open session with a report on a naming rights policy exception. Recreation and Culture is recommending an exception to the sponsorship and naming rights policy so they can negotiate directly with a potential sponsor for the new multi-use indoor turf facility without going through the formal advertising process. A potential sponsor has approached the city, and they meet all the policy requirements and offer a value well above the minimum set for the facility. The details will come forward after the negotiations are complete. Council did approve the recommendation. Next up was a motion from Councillor Oliver on establishing criteria for allowable tent encampment areas. This would build on the city's human rights-based 10-part community action plan, which includes the temporary village and other initiatives, including the establishment of up to 3 designated tent encampment sites in the city. The motion recommended that administration develop clear criteria for where encampments can exist and present them to council, at which time council could amend and approve those criteria prior to site selection, with the actual site decisions being delegated to administration, who would be working with partners and people with lived experience. After some discussion, Councillor Agarwal put an amendment to the motion on the floor that would return the final decision on site selection to council. Both motions were ultimately defeated. As previously directed, administration will work to develop site selection criteria and present that information to council at a later date. Councillor Hamilton then brought forward a motion to endorse advocacy position papers from the District Social Services Administration Board ahead of the upcoming AMO conference. These cover topics like childcare workforce wages, community policing pilots, supportive housing development, and housing provider challenges. The goal is to strengthen local advocacy at the provincial level. This motion was approved by council. A motion in support of Bill 49, the Northern Highways 11 and 17 Act, was removed from the agenda prior to the meeting and will be presented at a future meeting. Then council considered a recommendation from the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee to support the CEDC's advocacy for Thunder Bay's inclusion in the Rural Ontario Development Program. Right now, while other cities, including Sudbury, which has a larger population than Thunder Bay, are classified as rural in the program, Thunder Bay, on the other hand, is considered an urban center based on the program metrics, despite being geographically isolated and functioning as a rural hub for much of northwestern Ontario. Inclusion into the program would open up new provincial funding and program opportunities. The recommendation is to push the province to reconsider its definition of rural to reflect geographic and service realities. Council approved the recommendation. Letters from the CDC, the Chamber of Commerce, and the City of Thunder Bay will be sent to the province for consideration. Finally, Council passed several new bylaws this week, including appointments of municipal law enforcement officers, parking enforcement personnel, and authorizations to submit applications to the Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation. And that's a wrap on what happened at Council this week. For more information on what happens at Council, please visit our website, thunderbay.ca/council. Now, transportation plan might sound a little dry and technical, but it is more exciting than it sounds, I promise. The Transportation Master Plan and the Active Transportation Plan are around every single day. Whether you're driving to work or walking to the store, cycling on the weekend, or catching the bus. These plans set the vision for safer roads, better connections, and more options for how we move through Thunder Bay, both now and decades into the future. To help us understand what's been achieved so far and what's coming next, I'm joined today in the Minute Studio by the city's Director of Engineering, Matthew Miedema. Hey Matt, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
So at the meeting, you gave a presentation on the Transportation Master Plan and the Active Transportation Plan. So now these plans have been in place for a few years now. I think they were adopted in 2019. For listeners who maybe aren't familiar, can you explain what these plans are, maybe a little of what the vision was behind them at the time and why they're still important going forward?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Stephanie. So the vision for the Transportation Master Plan, Active Transportation Plan, was kind of built off the 2019 City Strategic Plan. So that's creating a healthy, vibrant, connected, and strong Thunder Bay. So that was kind of the overarching vision for the TMP and AT plans. So they basically looked at not just building roads. So the old transportation planning really looked at a road perspective. And over time, things have evolved. And now we're looking at a holistic road network. To your point, is we're looking at how cars move, but how people move throughout the network. So it's walking, cycling, transit, all modes of transportation that use the road corridor and get them to and from their destination safely.
Well, that's awesome. So in the report last night or earlier this week, we had heard that a lot has already been completed. Can you walk us through some of the biggest highlights so far?
Yeah. So the plan was built around several action items, and there are 5 core cornerstone action items that we kind of highlighted last night. And I'll go over them. The 5 cornerstone action items were the Complete Streets policy. So earlier this year, Council adopted the Complete Street policy, which kind of guides the city policy in terms of street design. So it's designing a street complete as it is. So looking at the aesthetics of the street, what it's used for, and kind of making sure all road users are done. So the city's been doing this for a long time. This kind of just put pen to paper, and it's an actual overarching policy. So some examples of a complete street would be like Algoma Street. It was with the bump out years ago. That was revamped with a complete street lens. So you're looking at pedestrians, attractiveness of the street, kind of looking at an overarching plan for the street. Other things we've progressed on is the road safety action plan. So we've still got work ahead of this, but we've made some significant strides in road safety for the city. So that includes road safety audits, pedestrian crossovers. That's a new thing that was approved in the Highway Traffic Act. So that helps get safe crossing for pedestrians throughout the city. We also look at speed bumps and flexible bollards, so new technology in traffic calming, that kind of stuff as well. So that is something we're going to continue on revamping in the road safety action plan. Other ones we've done is adopting the road, pedestrian, and cycling networks. So those plans and the networks and corridors for those plans have been adopted and protected in official plan documents. So we know kind of our vision for long-term to build those connected networks.
That's great. Of some of those completed projects, what do you think have, are there any, I guess, that have made like a huge impact or one that sort of really stands out?
Yeah, there's 2 that I was top of mind for me, and I'm a driver like everyone else in the city. So the one that I'm looking forward to actually finally implementing and seeing the good effects of or good resolve is the traffic synchronization project. It's been a long project passed by the prior council, give us direction to proceed with this initiative. And it's basically synchronizing lights. We're going to call it like riding a green wave. So you have a set of signals, and provided you do the speed limit, you'll get the green wave. You'll get a lot of traffic signals, and you just can ride continuously green through it. So we're excited to get that initiative off the ground, and we have 3 corridors later this fall. Watch out for the announcements. The Harbor Expressway, Arthur Street, and Red River Road, a few east-west corridors that you can just do the speed limit, and you should get a green light all the way.
That's awesome. What a great way to encourage people to do the speed limit as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit to the active transportation plan for a second. One of the goals of the active transportation plan is to create a connected network. You had mentioned that. Where are we now in building that network, and what are the next big steps?
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. We've made a lot of good progress on the active transportation network, and I want to kind of preface this conversation is the TMP and AT plan set a guideline of a set value you try to achieve expanding the network. So you heard City Manager John Collin mention last night of balancing renewal of existing infrastructure with expansion and new, so that 80-20 rule we're looking at. We're always looking to maximize and maintain our existing infrastructure. So the road network is okay, generally speaking, with some minor improvements and enhancements down the road. But our biggest gap is AT. So filling those gaps for sidewalk gaps, getting kids to school safely, making sure we have connected sidewalks on both sides of the street to get those kids to school safely, and expanding our cycling network. So it's whether it's multi-use trails, on and off road, and cycle tracks. So those are really the 2 big AT things we're promoting. And I mentioned earlier the pedestrian crossovers. So those are good ways to get students and everyone across the street, a busy street, safer. And a lot more keep traffic flowing because it's less intrusive than it signals.
Yeah, definitely. Looking ahead, what are some of the major projects planned in the near future? Next year, the year after that, what are we going to see happen?
We're continuing some roundabouts. So this year we have a roundabout at Cumberland and Water Street. That's exciting to get that one off the ground there. So it's a north side roundabout. And we are proceeding in that downtown south or north core, we'll call it. We have some more pedestrian realm improvements kind of continuing from Cumberland and where we left off last year with Red River Road. So kind of joining those 2 gaps going ahead. And just continuing to chip away at our sidewalk and multi-use trail gaps. So those are the 2 things we're looking ahead at. We do have longer term projects on the horizon, like the Waterfront Trail, continuing that network. The Fort to Port, we've discussed that one, kind of making that connection, continuing on. We do have an application to the province to help expand that network in the Vickers Care corridor. So just continuing on those expansions in the horizon and building our network out.
Yeah, there's a lot coming up. It's an exciting time for sure. There was some discussion at the meeting last night of a proposed road diet being considered for James Street. Can you explain a bit of what a road diet is and maybe why it's being proposed for that area? And I guess maybe if you can expand on like how it helps with safety and traffic flow.
Yeah, so the road diet is, I'll start with saying is imagine Victoria Avenue. For those who lived in Thunder Bay for a long time, Victoria Avenue was a 4-lane road. It was switched to, we say, a 3-lane road or 2 through lanes with a center double left. And then that space then provided us to then add bicycle lanes on the outside the curb lane. So it's really a cost-effective way to improve a road, adding the cycling network to that road without major infrastructure costs, we call it. So to add the cycle track, otherwise you have major curb work, asphalt work to do that. So this is a cost-effective way to add a different user group to that and help build that connected network. So when the TMP was created, some of the standards of that day was road diets. So you could look at James Street, for example, from Williams to Victoria Avenue. It's 4-lane arterial, and maybe the traffic volumes aren't as high, or there's a way to reduce it. So you make it 2 lanes with a double left in the middle, and that then allows you space to add the cycle lanes on the outside. And this is a cost-effective way to kind of build out that cycling network in the interim when you resurface a road. So that was the recommendation in 2019 plan. Prior to implementation, I will say we will need to do a full traffic study to look at everything. So, and again, take it to today's standards. So engineered standards change and evolve with time as well. So we want to make sure we're doing best practices, make sure it's a safe network for the cyclists, as well as in providing safe and efficient network for vehicles as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How do you decide where these happen? I mean, you mentioned traffic studies. Is that it? You do a study and determine where a road diet needs to happen, or is there a larger plan for that?
Yeah, so the larger plan, exactly what's in front of us, we're talking about today, is the Transportation Master Plan, Active Transportation Plan. So these are our visioning documents. So we had a team course the whole city and scan of our road networks, our cycling networks, our pedestrian networks, and kind of see where the gaps in the networks are. And based on traffic volumes for transportation, for example, is our road network adequate? Where are the gaps in congestion and in intersection delays? Similarly, you look at cycling networks and where is the gap to make a connected network for cyclists to get from the north side of the city all the way to the south side of the city. So those 2 master plans we have that we're talking about last night kind of fuel that where the gaps are, and then from there we go through more detailed studies. So this is really a high level 20-year vision. Where's the gaps in network? Subsequent detailed design studies will get into the bones of the design. It says, is the road diet the best solution? Is this off-road cycle track? Kind of that's when you really weigh out all your options of yeah, okay, there's a gap there. What's their best design solution for that network piece?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So we know that the city is working on a smart growth action plan right now as well. Can you talk a bit about how these plans and the work that your team is doing support growth and what type of like long-term benefits we might see from the Transportation Master Plan as the city grows?
Yeah, so they all work hand in hand. The Transportation Master Plan, the outcome result, I'll just kind of made the comment last night, there's no real major new road infrastructure we need for transportation. The city has a pretty robust system. There are some there are some arterial expansions. I mentioned the Northwest Arterial. That is a future warranted new arterial that is needed to address a gap in our connected northwest part of the city if the Ministry of Transportation proceeds with the 4-lane and dividing work on the Highway 1117. That would help address that gap. So that's one major arterial that we would need. Otherwise, there's not too many new roads we would need to address our transportation network. There are some maybe minor local roads just to help grow the city. So you have a new local road for Inter-Ocean area that would help support new development. But we're really trying to encourage infill with our transportation. Our transportation system, again, is robust. It can handle the traffic. So we really want to encourage infill within the city. So that kind of helps work together. So we're looking to expand new rural roads too much. Is use existing network and grow within.
And so by adding in that pedestrian crossovers and those new cycle infrastructure, you're presumably making it more attractive for people to live in the city.
Exactly, Sue. So we do want to encourage everybody to come to the city and make it an enjoyable place for people maybe not who have access to cars or used to having access to cars. So you got to make sure you have all modes of transportation covered, whether they want to ride bus transit, walk to work or cycle to work. So we want to make sure we accommodate everybody and have that network there. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, we've talked a lot about a lot of great things that are happening with these plans. What are some of the challenges you face delivering, on these plans or achieving the goals that are in these plans?
Yeah, so there's a couple of challenges highlighted in the report there. The first one in terms of traffic synchronization, we were hopeful to get that off ambitiously right away, but just as you get into that project, there's a lot involved, and it does take a lot of time, and it's just upgrading your internet connectivity to the signals, upgrading the computer software, upgrading the components that have failed over time. So a lot of work goes behind the scenes before you can just turn the lights and make it green. So it is a lot of work. Similarly, the Vickers Carrick Bridge has been a hot topic for the members of the public for some time, and is important AT network connection across that area of town, and it is identified as a port-to-port route. That project struggled with the trunk sewer there, which has caused some additional costs there, and looking how to mitigate that. It is a major sewer that feeds a lot of the city, so we want to make sure we get that right and protect that infrastructure. Similarly, we're trying to do it cost effectively. So there is a bridge there, and it's a CN rail bridge. So there is space. Maybe we have opportunity to get that infrastructure right on that existing bridge where people walk today. So we over-exhausted that conversation with CN and the railway back and forth for many years, and unfortunately not a favorable result. So it's looking like we'll have to have our own separate bridge to do that. So we're just kind of now proceeding with the next steps of having that infrastructure there. So it does take some negotiations with property owners and private businesses that can slow things down as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. I imagine funding also, can be a challenge. It certainly is in most areas. Are there external grants and things that are able to be applied for some of this work?
Yeah, and that's a very good point, Stephanie. Like, funding is a challenge, and maintaining our assets is a challenge for sure. As our city manager can say, asset management, we're behind on maintaining our infrastructure. And that 80-20 rule spoken last night is we got to maintain and renew exactly what we have there. So in the new things, what we do is trying to maximize those funding grants. And I really want to say this team at City, we've been really successful in maximizing active transportation funding. So just one example for new sidewalks, our target is around $200,000 to put towards new sidewalks to address gaps in the network. And that's kind of what we can afford. But what we were doing is really leveraging this ISIP funding to go from $200,000 to $1 million. So we're 5 times in what we can do for new infrastructure for sidewalks because of this external funding we have. And then we're just connecting infrastructure, which is great, to transit. So it's a new sidewalk or new trail that connects to transit. So you're adding cycling, walking, and connecting to transit use as well. So it's really a big benefit there. So anytime we can leverage that funding to address these good things is a positive.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Maybe I guess in line with that is that how do you prioritize which projects move forward each year? Is it, obviously it's based on like current state and things like that, but is some of it tied to funding that's available?
Yeah, so what I just spoke of is some things are transit driven. So if we can fill a gap to address a need to get a pedestrian to a transit stop, that'll help facilitate that. Other times we're leveraging what we're doing on the road. So if we have a sewer and water job, I'll throw High Street, a recent example. It was a major sewer and water. The road was in need of repair. So it's a combined infrastructure project. And looking at it from then alternative funding arrangements, there was an opportunity to then extend sidewalks and add new pedestrian crossovers to connect them to transit stops. So we leverage that funding with the underground sewer and water work. So it's planned. The aging infrastructure needs to do it, and you can do it at the same time. I will say other things we look at standalone for new sidewalks is we look at gaps in the network in terms of schools as well. We do have a priority pedestrian matrix we look at, and it just evaluates our sidewalk network and pedestrian priorities connected to schools or senior complexes and other rankings. We have a system, and that helps prioritize which sidewalk gap gets higher priority versus that. So we do have a matrix in engineering where we kind of do that evaluation.
Right. Yeah. So sort of back to the active transportation part for a second. Anecdotally, I know that I can say I see more cyclists and folks on e-bikes and scooters and things around, but do we have any data on how people are choosing to get around? And I guess as an aside to that, have we seen any changes in how people choose to move since we've started implementing these plans?
Yeah, another great question, Stephanie. No, unfortunately, the short answer is no. So we did a prior study in 2016 that we had some information of how people are moving. We are looking, that's one of the next steps in our presentation last night we spoke of, is a household travel survey. So we are partnering with the university to help gather that information to see how people are moving around the city and if modes are shifting from the car to the cycling or walking or transit as well. So that's an upcoming future work for our project, and our team here is really looking at, okay, we've made some improvements and we have prior data. How are we going to, what's the new data showing? Have we made improvements and strides to address these gaps, and are we seeing a positive return on our investments?
That's exciting. We'll look forward to seeing that. So speaking of having the opportunity to collect some data, is there an opportunity, or will there be opportunities for residents to provide feedback on this plan going forward?
Well, this plan was done in 2019, so we did an extensive public consultation then. So we will have opportunity for public feedback on some of the projects that come as we may. So the James Street Road Diet, for example, as we proceed with that project, we'll look to get some feedback on public as we do our engineering studies. So as some of the one-off projects do come off, we will get some public feedback on those projects.
Well, that's great. So all kinds of opportunity then.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So that's it for this week's episode of The Minutes. A big thank you to my guest, Matthew Miedema, Director of Engineering for the City of Thunder Bay. Thank you for joining us to talk about the Transportation Master Plan and the Active Transportation Plan. And as always, thanks to you for listening. If you want more information about City Council, agendas, or minutes, visit thunderbay.ca/council. You can catch The Minutes every week wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube or our website at thunderbay.ca/theminutes. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update. I'm Stephanie Reid. Thanks again for listening to The Minutes. Have a great week.